at the last meeting that we would be talking about a substantial completion request. Unfortunately, the project's delayed a bit due to several things. One, the generator startups continue to be an issue, and City Service Valcon has requested a second propane tank for each of the well locations, which added about a month and a half of wait time. And so we did get a date from Riviere. Those are supposed to go in on October 8th. We've also had some issues. It seems like every time they dig something up at Dromore around Cape Horn Road, it's not in the right location. So it's just caused some delays on the project. Now, you know, from your guys' perspective, I'm open to what you want to do and talking through some different options. I think there's an argument that, okay, hey, why are we learning about this now when the contract days are expired, right? Like, I think that's a valid claim, but I can also see where, you know, if the owner was to push back, if you guys were to push back too much, if you want to go to liquidated damages, I could also see La Riviere pushing back very firmly just based on some of the unknowns that have come up that are really no fault of theirs, right? So I think it's one of those situations where, you know, some of this is in their court, some of it's honestly probably in our court, and some of it's in Bayview's court just due to not knowing exactly where things are located on your system, right? And so I think where I'm at, in terms of our recommendation on how to proceed, is to work together to get this resolved and done as soon as possible. And the fastest I see this buttoning up is around October 8th, but this project's likely going to take another month. So that's kind of my update on the project. I don't know, I'd be open to, I was hoping to have some discussion with you guys, see what you think. So yeah.
Well, now, on some of these things, you know, like the generator for well 8 and these problems, they've had a whole year to get this stuff together because they're a year behind now. And there's just no excuse for that. I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, Ted. I think that goes back to my point, kind of what I was saying initially. From your guys' standpoint, it could be argued that, well, why are we finding out about this stuff now? You had all year to do that. You know, from their standpoint, it could be, you know, well, these are surprises. These are unforeseen items, right?
Now we had scheduled expected delivery of tanks and the fuel. We had this on an agenda, or not, shouldn't say agenda, on a schedule. And that fell through because they needed more, was it? Why did things go awry?
Yeah, that's correct. So the design included a single 1,000 gallon propane tank at each of the sites. And that was based on the computations needed to provide for a particular generator spec. Now, City Service Valcon's technician, his calculations are a little bit different. And based on the requirements from the exact generator that was purchased, they are recommending, and they don't want to do generator startup without a second 1,000 gallon tank installed. So now what it means for you is the main downside is not cost, because the cost is minor in this case. The cost is really just a little bit of time for Riviere to dig the tank. The downside is the wait time. And getting City Service Valcon out there the first time to put the single tank in took a lot of effort. And so now, you know, getting a second one, that's caused delays.
And they use a crane to bring it in, not just their stem, because it's so large. The other thing was that the technician, you know, there's miscommunication. Oh, this is a 1,000,000 BTU generator, we only need an inch or inch and a half line size. Well, no, it was a 2,000,000, Ben, and they need 2 inch, and they said, well, this inch is fine, then they realized, oh, it's a much bigger generator than what we thought. So there's little things like that, and it just adds up to delays when there's miscommunications.
And just
Yeah,
getting
that's
city
exactly
service
right.
Falcon on the phone has been a nightmare. Bob calls them off the hook, the Riviera calls them off the hook, getting them on a schedule, when are you delivering? I mean, it's just like over a solid week of calling them off.
So
the
this
hook.
was city service, we knew they were dragging, I don't wanna say dragging their feet, but they were kinda the weak link in the chain. And when we finally got them out here, that's when they
Figured
kinda-
they had the wrong
they-
parts. And the
they
correct
told us
parts are
that what they
special.
were looking at wasn't what they
Right,
were
and the
expecting.
correct parts are special order parts. Otherwise, those normally have the stuff with them.
And originally, the parts that we needed, they were special ordered too, because nobody had them in stock.
Right.
So that's why we were doing all this, it is what it is. Grr.
So who is City Service Valcon working for? Contractor? Or are we paying them directly?
It's part of the project, I know.
Part
they-
of the project, I
Yes.
mean, we pay city service Valcon for a lot of our generator stuff.
Right.
but
Because it's part of the contract, it's
Yes.
part of construction.
This is- yeah.
so-
And
Or
I'll
at
have-
least spend so
How
much
it's
time.
set up is they're basically providing the tank and then the propane that fuels the generator. So when you refill the tank and they service it, right, that's when they get paid. And then contractually through La Riviere, they're required to coordinate with City Service Valcon as a third party. La Riviere doing the excavation, City Service Valcon providing the tank
Okay.
is how we have it set up.
It's not actually part of the contract then, okay.
Now,
Yeah.
now that's one problem, but then connecting these water lines, there was two people working today. And we've got a lot of work to be done, and I understand that they had a big project someplace else, that they were doing a boring job, and I mean, hey, we've got people that live on that easement that are hurting. You know, it may sound insignificant, but they wanna get their boat out and wanna go fishing and, these type things, and here, this project is a year behind, you know, it's just, it's hard to explain that.
And Ben, why don't you explain, the other thing too was the piping, the piping was underground, they found different elevations, that had a factor of why they couldn't go any further. Do you wanna get in any detail on that at all?
Well, yeah, what happened yesterday, they dug up to make the pressure connection to the booster station, and the pipes that are shown on the as-built records for Dromar are in a completely different location. And so, what happens is then, now we can't make the pressure connection, we have to reroute lines and reconfigure fittings and things to get it all to fit underground. And so, we're working through that today with them. We've spent a good part of today trying to figure out the best solution. I think we're really close on that. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, how do you know that, you know, what's underground is gonna differ from the as-bills? You know, it's unfortunate, but there's, you know, it's not really their fault, it's no one's fault necessarily. And I totally understand the community, you know, being patient through the course of this project and it taking some time, but I mean, we are very, very close to being done. So there's a few things that need to be buttoned up. What I would recommend, if you guys are okay with it, I would like to reach out to Tommy LaRiviere, Matt, who's our project manager, and I would like Keller, LaRiviere, and a couple people from Bayview to all get in a meeting, and I want to hear from them what is their schedule to completion, how many days need to remain, are there any additional costs associated with some of these changes, and get everyone on the same page, because after we've gone through that, then we're not adding any more additional days, if that makes sense. Like, we need to stick to that schedule, we need to be done, we need to be done before winter.
And I think the other thing we want to add to on there, Ben, is that sometimes there's maybe things that are not quite right, but it goes onto a punch list. After the project is substantially completed, then we can go back. We just don't want to slow them down with little things that could be taken care of later. We want to keep them going on the big
100%.
project. You want to address that at all, Ben?
100%,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
They need to address the major scope of work items that remain, which is the generator startups for both well 7 and 8, the booster station startups, and the pressure connections at the Dromore booster station and the west end of East Cape Horn. That's what's left. And once they've made those connections and they have the generator started up and the booster station started up, Bayview, as the owner, can now occupy the system. The project is substantially complete. There'll still be some cleanup and punch list items that will be ongoing after that's done, but contractually, the project is, 99% complete. And that's really where we need to get to as fast as possible.
Well, these people were promised that when they dug a hole, it would be filled in by night, and it hasn't happened that way. So we come out, the district comes out with egg on their face.
Yeah,